10 years after the fall of Troy, the mastermind behind the wooden horse is nowhere to be found. To his people, Odysseus is a legendary war hero who seemingly vanished into thin air. In reality, he isn't lost, he's trapped. A hostile ocean, commanded by the sea god Poseidon, bars his path, while the enchanting nymph Calypso keeps him a physical prisoner on her isolated island. While Odysseus is stranded across the sea, his coastal kingdom of Ithaca is left completely unprotected. Without a king, a dangerous power vacuum has formed. A mob of local lords has moved directly into Odysseus's estate. They slaughter his livestock, drink through his wine cellars, and relentlessly harass his wife, Penelope, demanding she choose one of them as her new husband. To understand why this is happening, we have to look at the ancient Greek concept of xenia. This diagram illustrates how xenia functioned, a strict foundational code of hospitality based on mutual obligation between a host and a guest. You protect and feed your guests, and in return, they respect your home. But the suitors are actively weaponizing it. By exploiting their status as guests, they are bleeding the estate dry without breaking explicit laws that would justify their sudden expulsion. A kingdom stripped of its king is vulnerable, but one stripped of its foundational societal rules is on the brink of total collapse. Sitting quietly among this parasitic mob is Telemachus, Odysseus's son. Instead of throwing them out, he sits paralyzed by grief, quietly daydreaming that his father might suddenly burst through the doors and save the day. He is crushed by the psychological weight of his own lineage. Telemachus suffers from deep imposter syndrome, living entirely in the shadow of a mythical, highly competent father he was too young to actually know. He might be physically safe sitting in the corner of his own house, but the legacy he is supposed to inherit is slowly crumbling right in front of him. If the young prince remains completely passive, his family's legacy dies before Odysseus even has a chance to plot his return. Far above the Mediterranean Sea, the Greek gods observe this human chaos from the elevated vantage point of Mount Olympus. The situation in Ithaca has reached a breaking point, prompting Athena, the goddess of wisdom, to finally take pity on this fractured family. She travels to Ithaca and approaches the estate, disguising herself as a foreign chief named Mentes. This tactical choice allows her to bypass the suspicion of the suitors, who closely guard the gates against any real threats. She doesn't use magical intervention to strike down the suitors or teleport Odysseus home. Instead, she executes a targeted psychological operation on Telemachus. Divine intervention in Homeric epic rarely looks like a lightning bolt from the sky. Usually, it takes the form of strategically applying hard truths to a fractured mind. Athena starts by validating Telemachus's lineage. She looks at the boy and explicitly points out how much his head and eyes physically resemble his legendary father, anchoring his identity in strength rather than doubt. Then she validates his suppressed anger. She confirms that the suitor's behavior is objectively atrocious, giving him permission to feel genuine rage instead of helpless pity. Finally, she provides a concrete action plan. She instructs him to call a public assembly tomorrow to formally banish the suitors. Then, as this map outlines, he is to ready a ship and sail east towards Pylos and Sparta to seek news of his missing father. With her instructions delivered, Athena suddenly flies into the air like a bird, dropping her disguise to reveal her divine nature to the boy. The realization of a god's favor acts as a jolt to his system. The passive grief of a child completely vanishes, replaced by the firm resolve of an heir ready to reclaim his home. We see the immediate results of this awakening when Telemachus encounters his grieving mother, Penelope, on the stairs. Instead of comforting her in shared despair, he gently but firmly assumes control of the household. He sends her back to her room to tend to her daily duties, explicitly declaring that he is now the master of the house. He then pivots to confront the suitors directly. He issues a shocking public order, demanding they permanently vacate the estate by morning and feast at their own expense. If they refuse, he promises a violent end, warning the mob that Zeus himself will reckon with them in full if they continue to sponge off one man's estate. The suitors, specifically their leaders Antinous and Eurymachus, bite their lips. Their reaction is a volatile mix of shock and mockery, masked by the uncomfortable realization that the boy is no longer a passive victim. This confrontation acts as a formal political challenge. Historically, public declarations were staged on stone steps and open forums, much like these surviving ruins. While the rest of the epic focuses on Odysseus fighting the sea to get home, Book 1 proves that Telemachus has awakened to fight the societal rot on his own shores, ensuring there is actually a kingdom left for his father to return to.